animals act in response to stimuli. This action is controlled by the brain, the spinal cord, and the rest of the nervous system. A frog, for instance, senses danger when it's touched. Everyone has probably played this game. Someone draws a letter on your back, and you have to guess which card to pick up from the table. But how does the sensation on your back tell your hand which card to pick up? To understand this, we'll have to look at the pathways of the nervous systems. The stimulus is felt by nerve cells in the skin. It's then transmitted to the spinal cord and finally to the brain. The brain analyzes the information and decides which letter was drawn on your back. The brain then sends an order through the spinal cord to the muscles in your arm and hand, telling them which card to pick up. The nerves which respond to external stimuli are called sensory nerves, and the nerves which transmit orders from the brain and spinal cord are called motor nerves. In other words, the stimulation received by our eyes, ears, and skin does not go directly to the motor organs. It goes first to the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, where a response is worked out and an order sent to the motor organs. A simple experiment tells us something else about the nervous system. If you tap someone lightly just below the kneecap, the leg moves in response. But in this case, the brain is not involved. The stimulus traveled along sensory nerves to the spinal cord, but did not continue up to the brain. It was the spinal cord which ordered the motor nerves to move the leg. This reflex action is the simplest of all the nerve pathways. So, the spinal cord is not simply a passageway to the brain. It's also capable of responding to stimulus and commanding action. When an action is ordered by the spinal cord and not the brain, it's called a spinal reflex. The brain is connected to the spinal cord, which is protected within the backbone. This cross-section shows the spinal cord located inside the backbone where it's well protected. If we remove the spinal cord, it's possible to see the many very fine fibers attached to it. These are the peripheral nerves. They appear short here because they've been cut. This cross-section of the spinal cord has been dyed with pigment to make the nerve fibers easier to see. If we put the dark inner section under a microscope, we can see countless small, uneven shapes. These are the nerve cells. Let's magnify one of them. This is a nerve cell. There are millions of them clustered in the center of the spinal cord. Each nerve cell is made up of a cell body, a nucleus, many fibers extending from the cell body called dendrites, and a very long nerve fiber called an axon. This long white nerve in a frog's leg is actually a bundle of countless axons or nerve fibers. The light-colored outer section of the spinal cord is also made up of these axon bundles. On top of the spinal cord is the brain. This is a human brain. The large section, which can be seen from the outside, is called the cerebrum. The surface of the cerebrum is covered with many folds or fissures. Seen from above, the cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, the right and left. This is a cross-section of one of those hemispheres. The brain is divided into a number of parts, each with its own particular functions. The cerebrum controls movement and stores memory. The cerebellum coordinates muscular activity, balance, and posture. The thalamus regulates many organs and controls body temperature. The midbrain controls eye movement and hearing. The medulla oblongata regulates breathing, heartbeats, and other internal organs. Let's take a closer look at the biggest section of the brain, the cerebrum. A cross-section shows that the inner and outer parts of the cerebrum are different colors. If we put the darker gray matter under a microscope, we'll see that it's made up of millions of nerve cells, just like the inner section of the spinal cord. The threads of countless dendrites and nerve fibers, or axons, are all intertwined in this part of the cerebrum. Here's a three-dimensional model of a single nerve cell. Note the cell body, the dendrites, and the longer nerve fiber. A special technique has been used here to color the cell bodies in the cerebrum. Each red circle is one cell body. At a lower magnification, you can see how many of these cells there are in the cerebrum. A human brain contains about 14 billion nerve cells in the cerebrum. The pale, white part of the cerebrum is made up of nerve fibers, just like the outer section of the spinal cord. We can get some idea of how the cerebrum works by testing this monkey's memory. For the experiment, we'll use 2 cards and some food. Food, in this case a raisin, is always placed under the card marked with a cross. There's never anything under the card with a square. How long will the monkey take to learn where the food is hidden? After 10 days, this monkey has learned that raisins can always be found under the card marked with a cross. The monkey's cerebrum has stored the information learned by trial and error. This can actually be confirmed by a small operation on the monkey's brain when a cut is made to the side of the cerebrum. One month later, the same monkey again tries the experiment with cards and raisins. We can see that the cut made to the cerebrum has caused a loss of memory. For now, the monkey can't tell the difference between the two cards. In another experiment, we can find out which part of the brain is responsible for a monkey's quick movements. In this case, a cut is made in the top of the cerebrum. Now, its movements are slow and very clumsy. So we can see that the ability to pick things up seems to be impaired if the upper section of the cerebrum is injured. Let's try another experiment with these plastic snakes. Monkeys have a great fear of snakes. This can be totally removed with a small incision at the back of the cerebrum. Now the monkey isn't worried at all by these snakes. The small cut made to the back of the cerebrum means that things seen by the monkey don't register properly in its brain, and it can't connect snakes with fear anymore. Today, we know a great deal about the brain and its functions, many of them performed by different parts of the cerebrum: vision, memory, willpower, creative activity and judgment, emotions and thought. The sensory area and the motor area. Obviously, the nervous system has a very important part to play in our lives.